What's up, guys? Max here with another episode of the ScuttleButt Show. First off, right off the bat, there's some people working in the house, so if you hear some background noise or my dog barking, that's the reason for that. Welcome, everybody, to the chat. Welcome, Earl. Welcome, Scotty. Welcome, Justin. Welcome, Armor. Everybody who's tuning in, I appreciate you guys being here. As always, we've got a great show today. I don't want to make this an I told you so thing, and I want to find the best in this situation, but the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Joanne Bass, has really stepped in it, put her foot right in it this time with another unwarranted post on Facebook that no one asked for, and her jumping down that chain of command like she should be on the Navy Leapfrogs team, the way that she just jumps from all the way up there down to the ground. But first off, as always, about yesterday. So about yesterday, couple things. One, I wanted to do this yesterday, but I kind of forgot. I wanted to give a shout out to all the brand new Navy Chiefs. Congratulations to everybody who put on Chief this week, or on Friday, I guess I should say. So last week on Friday, they're showing up in work to work on khakis this week, I'm sure. Interestingly, and I want to tell you guys about this, for the first time ever for me, you guys who've been watching the show for a while might know this. You guys who haven't, I'll just fill you in really quick. The way I got out of the Navy, the rank that I was at when I got out of the Navy is a little bit complicated. It's a little bit muddy. I got out of the Navy as a Chief Select, which is like unheard of. I mean, just the fact that my EAOS, my end of service date, fell during that time period is just like extremely rare, out of the ordinary. And then the fact that I got out and didn't stay in is pretty rare too. So I got out as a Chief Select. My DD-214 says promoted to but not advanced to CPO, and somebody sent me a request it's not very formal. I'm probably making it sound more formal than it needs to be, to fill out a charge sheet for their book, to put a page in their charge book, which is something that Chief Selects do during the season or the initiation, the training, the CPO training that they get after they make rank. So I've been working on that, and I'm going to get that out to the gentleman who sent it to me, and it was truly an honor. It was really an honor to get that. And I'm taking it seriously and trying to put my best foot forward and writing a statement there. And then somebody asked me yesterday, I'm going through about 3 books right now. I've got Ashley's War. I've got The Kill Chain as recommended by Scotty, which is great so far. And then the Blue Jackets Manual, which I'm just thumbing through, making notes, making little earmarks on the pages of where my favorite information out of the Blue Jackets Manual is. And somebody asked me yesterday when I think the United States, I think it was Armor, asked me yesterday when I think the United States won't be the number one superpower, military superpower in the world. And I said never. And, when I listened back to what I said, I felt like my words didn't make any sense. They at least didn't convey the spirit of the message I was trying to send, which I'm going to prepare something a little bit more intelligible for you guys. But I think what I was trying to say was you can never count out the human factor, right? You can go by numbers, you can go by power of weaponry and innovation of technology, but you can never count out the human factor. And I think the human factor of what the United States brings to the table is better than any other peer-to-peer foe that we have out there right now. So in quick, I think that's more what I was trying to say, is to never count out the human factor, and I'll leave it at that for now. So today we have a bunch of stories to cover. Couple out of Okinawa. One is from Military Times. They're covering a 100-year-old Army veteran talking about battling through the Pacific in the Battle of Hacksaw Ridge on Okinawa, where I plan on taking you guys soon. As soon as I can lock down a good military historian, we're going to be doing live shows from military historical sites here in Okinawa, and I can't wait for that. It's just a matter of finding the right person who wants to contribute their military history expertise out here on the island. We've got a Russian jet does a low pass over a Navy warship, and why those things happen in my experience with those kinds of things. And we have a little video to go over there. We have Army history. It's Black History Month. It's February, and we've got a little Army history of the Harlem Hellfighters out of World War I that we're going to be talking about. Okinawa in court. A Marine gets handed down a pretty rough sentence in Okinawa court. We're going to talk about that. Does Russia have armor that can stop 50 cal rounds? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, I don't know if you guys remember that old show on TV back in the day, Erie, Indiana. It was the haunted TV show, the spooky supernatural TV show. Only had about 20 episodes. It was good. It was on during the daytime back in the day. And then we're going to talk, maybe if you guys aren't as old as me, you won't remember. And then we're going to talk about Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Joanne Bass, and the trouble that she's in once again, and the way that I think her military career is turning out in her new role as Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. So without further ado, let's get into the very first story of today. Thank you all for being here. As always, we've got 100-year-old Army veteran recalls fighting on Hacksaw Ridge, getting shot twice on Okinawa. And he lives to this day to tell the tale. You know, I love paying, my respects to the senior citizen military veterans out there, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. I think that they're, we can never just take for granted the fight that they went through, the sacrifice that they made, not just during the conflict, but post-conflict, going into the civilian sector after the war, all the people who were drafted, all the people who signed up in high school, like this gentleman right here. So let's go over this really quick. James Chapman witnessed events of world importance during his 100 years. So if you're 100 years old now, you would have been born in 1920 or 1921. And probably, I guess you would have been born in probably most likely in 1920. And you would have lived through the Depression years. You would have lived through World War II. You would have lived through the Korean War, many presidents, the assassination of presidents, all kinds of crazy stuff. So Chapman, who was to mark his centennial on Sunday with a small group of relatives, she just turned 100, was born in Chapman near Louisa in Lawrence County. His parents were Joseph and Nora Chapman. So the centenarian had said he dropped out of Louisa High School to voluntarily serve in World War II. Dropped out of high school, a kid. He served in the infantry in the South Pacific as a staff sergeant. So he made staff sergeant in his time in. He was wounded twice and received 2 Purple Hearts. That's because people were getting promoted so quickly in World War II on the battlefield. With those battlefield promotions, he was probably only 18 years old. He described that he was halfway drafted, so people were getting draft letters because there was a draft during World War II. But he said, nah, you know what? I'm just going to go enlist. So he goes down to the recruiter's office, and he takes his exams in 1942. So all the other recruits get on the bus, he says, but they said they couldn't take you. They say they can't take you, Chapman said. I said, nah, I'm here. I'm going, and got on the bus. He said, nah, I'm going. I'm going to Europe. I'm going to the Pacific. He didn't have to go because his brothers were drafted, so that's part of the lone remaining child does not have to go into military service if all the other siblings are in, but he wanted to go, so he enlisted. He did basic training in Georgia. He went to the West Coast to train more, and then he went out to the Pacific. He ended up doing more training in Hawaii, which must have been interesting at the time. Chapman said his unit trained for the invasion of Yap Island, but that never came because they leapfrogged it. They said they had a bigger project for our company. He said, we went and hit the Philippine Islands, and that's where Chapman earned the first of his 2 Purple Hearts. I got shot in the left shoulder in Okinawa, he recalled. I got blown out of a hole with an artillery shell in the Philippines and couldn't hear for weeks. That injury is responsible for much of his hearing loss now. So he lived another 80 years with impaired hearing after his service. Like so many veterans living with wounds from their battlefield experiences, injuries, being near artillery, whatever it is, TBI, which wasn't even a thing that they knew about back then, and then lived the rest of his life, and he's still living 100 years old. He was then ordered to Okinawa. His company hit on April 1st, 1945, which is Easter, by the way, and what I saw was pretty rough. Okinawa was something else. They say it was one of the bloodiest islands in World War II. I got shot twice on there, but one time it was just marks. Yeah, no big deal, just a light gunshot wound, nothing to really scoff at. Chapman's unit fought on Hacksaw Ridge. If you guys have seen the famous movie Hacksaw Ridge, shot in, I think, like Australia or something like that. Definitely not shot in Japan. He explained the Japanese had dug into the island and had tunnels and passages connecting underground. They had a rock crest hollowed out, and they could climb up there with field glasses and see the whole island. He's talking about the Japanese troops, where everyone was. That island was honeycombed, and there were caves all over it. Now, interestingly, you can see remnants of that today. And I will tell you, I've been to Hacksaw Ridge. Like I said, we're going to take you guys out to Hacksaw Ridge and do live episodes from there and many other war sites this year. That's going to be this year. It looks very unremarkable as far as a battlefield goes. I mean, when you get up to Hacksaw Ridge, it is very small, very small. It is definitely difficult to imagine how it went down up there. I mean, it's really hard to picture because Hacksaw Ridge has all these very small hilltops, and then the mountain that goes up to it is also, it's steep, but it's also short. Like there's no really tall terrain on Okinawa. The tallest is like 100 feet, 150 feet or 200 feet or something like that is the highest terrain in Okinawa. So Chapman said that the Japanese used these caves to be able to hit troops from behind. It was these dug-in locations where Chapman was shot, earning him his 2nd Purple Heart. He said, I went too far. I was out ahead of my men. I was out ahead when I got shot. Chapman said he went over the hill and up a holler where the Japanese had machine guns slightly buried into the ridge about 200 yards in front of him. I got in behind a rock, and every time I'd move, they'd turn those machine guns on me. Wow. That must have been horrifying. My BAR gunner, I heard something, and here he came crawling down the hill to me. He'd been hit, and blood was running down his face, and this, that, and the other. He wiped it off and got a towel out of his backpack, and he bandaged me up. What an insane account of what happened. And the fact that, veterans from World War II can recall the events that they experienced with such clarity and detail, even when other faculties of theirs start to go, is really speaking of the lingering toll that war experiences take on you. He said, what are we going to do? We can't get out of here. Every time we move, they turn them machine guns loose on us. I said, we'll just work it out till it gets dark. Chapman said once it got dark, the two managed to get back over the hill and headed toward the command post. The post had moved, but the pair was picked up by a Jeep. After the vehicle transported him to the aid station in the field hospital, Chapman was put on a ship and taken to Saipan, where he underwent surgery to remove the bullets. It healed up on the outside, but didn't heal up on the inside, he said. I had to go back and have another operation, and they found one stuck behind the shoulder blade, and it still gives him problems. He's still got bullets in him. After the operation, Chapman returned to his unit. Returned to his unit after all that. Went back to the Philippines after Okinawa. They were all happy to get new equipment, loaded the ships, and then they were going to go to Japan. But then the war ended. I just thank the Lord I got through. You had to lean a whole lot on your faith while deployed, he said. Wow. He said any holiday free or any chance he got, he would go to church while overseas. In 1945, the two major Christian holidays, Easter and Christmas, played pivotal roles in Chapman's life. Easter was the day he landed on Okinawa, and Christmas was the day he got out of the Army. Wow. Wonder if Admin came to meet him on Christmas Day and give him his DD-214. He returned to Lawrence County, and he grew up with the woman he would marry, Catherine Robinette, and he would go on to have 5 children. He has 9 grandchildren, 26 great-grandchildren, and 7 great-great-grandchildren. His wife passed away after they were married for 61 years, and that was 17 years ago. What a story. What a story. Good for him. Good for him. I want to thank everybody who's in the chat. What's up, everybody? Welcome, Christian Regal. Bite the hand that feeds us. We'll find out more about that soon. Armor, they're a dying breed in more ways than one. The World War II generation. Jacob, what's up? Good to see you in the chat. Can't wait to get your book and get you on the show. The terrain alone is enough to humble you when you go to Oki. I wouldn't want to have to take it from 50 guys, never mind thousands. Yeah, so, you do go through really, really rough, overgrown areas, the vegetation. They do the jungle warfare training out here. It is the elevation is low, but there are rivers, there are different waterfalls and bodies of water that they have to climb up. If you do go look at the cliffs that they had to scale to get onto Okinawa to do the invasion, where the ships were coming in, where they were landing artillery in, kind of hard to imagine what that must have been like. Nikki, what's up? Welcome to the chat. Thank you very much. Larry, my grandfather went from South Pacific as an AO3 in a VP squadron from January 1944 to July 1945. What's up, Larry D? Thank you to your grandfather. Minnie Lay, I've learned while looking through stories of vets that soldiers give 0 Fs. About? Minnie? About? What about? The injuries? What is it about? What do we give 0 Fs about? Look, Russia's antagonizers. They're instigators. We got a Russian jet flies low past the USS Donald Cook in the Black Sea, and we got a video to go along with this. A Russian warplane conducted a low pass near the USS Donald Cook on Sunday in the Black Sea, where the Navy has dispatched 3 ships for exercises. The Sukhoi Su-24 fighter bomber screeched past the U.S. destroyer while it was operating in international waters, the U.S. Navy's 6th Fleet said in a statement. So let's watch this video really quick. Now, somebody's out there filming that on her cell phone, obviously. That must have been a really tense moment for the junior sailors on board that ship. Now, we've all probably who've been on ships experienced, close passes with other ships from other countries. You hear about Russian ships, Chinese ships. Even sometimes you get a little fishing boat, dinghy, that wants to come up to your ship, and you're like, wow, we're here now. This ship's coming right up to ours. What are we going to do? Are we supposed to shoot it? It could be loaded with explosives. What are we supposed to do? You've got, Scotty says, Snoopy team away. That Snoopy team goes out there to see what's going on. Get those binos out. Go see what's going on. You've got going through straits where you can see land, and you're wondering, are they going to shoot at us from the land? That's what they always tell you. You're going through the straits, and they're like, they could shoot an RPG right at our ship, and that, it just never happens. It is interesting to be that up close and personal to another government, another nation ship. They would pass by really close, and they would kind of antagonize, instigate a little bit, kind of like that old clip from Top Gun where he's, I was inverted, like this. They're doing a little, feeling out the area, giving a little, nod, a little flyby, seeing how close they can get, seeing what the response is. That's maybe, it's hard to say what they were really doing. It could be just testing the water, so to speak, to see what the U.S. is going to do. It's kind of ballsy to go 20 feet above the water and fly past a ship like that. The Navy said it operates in the Black Sea to reassure allies in the region that they ensure security and stability. Because you know what the Navy does? The Navy ensures all that sea power, freedom of movement over the seas. Sea power is where it's at. USS Donald Cook is operating alongside the destroyer USS Porter and the USNS Laramie, which is refueling the warships. USNS. Justin, what's up, USNS? Justin says, remember those foreign P3s that used to almost hit our helos? I don't remember that. I'm sure I was there. I don't remember though. Maybe where were we at when that was happening? Larry D says, in the 80s, the Ruskies were as thick as bugs on a bumper in the Med. We always had trawlers following us in the Nimitz. Nikki says, Russia has been doing this since 2015 when the Cook first got to Rota, where the ship was home ported. Minnie says, like Churchill fought with a bow and arrow. So let me remember this really quick. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the plane that we shot down in Syria a few years ago, the manned jet that we shot down in Syria was Russian. Is that correct? Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but the U.S.'s first man-to-man plane, what am I saying? The U.S.'s first jet-to-jet, I'm losing my words. The U.S.'s first attack on another manned aircraft in 30 years, 40 years, something like that, took place in I think 2016, 2017 in Syria, and I believe that was a Russian aircraft. Correct me if I'm wrong down in the chat, but I'm pretty sure we did blow up a Russian aircraft for violating airspace over Syria where it was a no-fly zone. I think I got the facts kind of close to right on that one. Like I said, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not necessarily, a gimme that nothing's going to happen on a flyby like that. The U.S. could do something. The Russians could do something. It always gets a little tense. And I'm just trying to imagine what it would be like to be an E3 bosun's mate on that ship. You're out there standing watching. You got to be the one to go, oh, we got something here. We got a Russian jet just flew by 20 feet away from us. So refueling at sea is fundamental for the Navy, but doing it in the Black Sea is a new operational model in a new year, said Commander Matt Kernan, the USS Donald Cook's commander. Taking fuel at sea is the most concrete way for us to sustain independent operations, and those USNS ships have a big say in that. But they have to be able to get out there. You got these civilian ships that need to be able to travel unimpeded through the sea, and that's one thing that the sea power of the Navy protects, is our ships being able to travel like that. If you guys have seen the movie Greyhound, where ships were getting taken out left and right trying to cross the Atlantic. NATO has emphasized the maintaining a presence in the region, which includes the Crimean Peninsula, annexed by force by Russia in 2014. I was just talking about the kill chain. So let's see. We've got other Navy aircraft out there. In April and May, the U.S. accused Russia of multiple unsafe intercepts involving fighters flying as close to 25 feet from a Navy P-8 Poseidon reconnaissance aircraft over the eastern Mediterranean. That's along the lines of what Justin was talking about. Russia has also lodged complaints about U.S. operations near its borders. So, we'll see. Well, I guess we'll see what happens with all that. I always imagine they're just testing our TTPs and our SOPs for when that kind of thing happens. And they're going to probably go look and see how it makes the news and what kind of coverage it is and who recorded it and how quick that video gets uploaded to, I'm looking at the wrong camera, and how quick that video gets uploaded to Facebook and all that. So Nikki says, Max the Historian, it's always interesting because this show is live. I always stumble over my dates and places and names because I'm always like second guessing myself when I'm doing a live show. Look, thank you everyone for being here. If you're new to the channel, if you're new to the show, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you want, all the ways to support the channel are in the description down below. We've got Patreon. You can buy a t-shirt. You can donate. There's a donation button down there on the links. But one of the main things you can do is just invite people to come watch the show and get in the chat. Justin says, Gulf, I remember one time doing vert rep hovering, and I was just sitting in the open door watching this P3 flying at us level and then barely pulled up over us. Wow. You know what? I do kind of remember that now that you say that. I do kind of remember that. That is insane. Minnie says, Russia was going to attack USA over a mistake seen on their faulty radar. The only reason Russia didn't was because the person who saw the blip refused to report it. What's the timeline of that? When do we get to CMSAF base? Probably in about 10 minutes. I think probably in about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, Nikki, 10 to 15 minutes. So I want to tell you guys, because, like I said, it's Black History Month, and I never shy away from talking about the impact of our African-American troops in during segregated times, volunteering to fight all the way from the American Revolution through the Civil War and World War I and II, and all that time during a period where the country wasn't treating them so kindly. So, if you don't know the name, Army makes the Harlem Hellfighters nickname official after more than a century, and there's a painting here depicting their efforts in World War I. They called themselves the Black Rattlers, and the French dubbed them the Men of Bronze, but the Army now officially recognizes a historic Harlem unit by what the enemy called them in World War I, the Hellfighters. The Harlem Hellfighters is now the official special designation for the 369th Sustainment Brigade. The New York National Guard said Friday the unit traces its lineage to the all-black 369th Infantry, which earned the moniker over a century ago in fierce fighting that's been credited with helping to break down racial barriers. The regiment was the first unit of the American Expeditionary Force in World War I that allowed blacks to serve, but they were denied a send-off parade with the 42nd Infantry Division, known as the Rainbow Division. After their commander was told they couldn't participate because black is not a color in the rainbow. Oh my God. It's just so important to me that we recognize that this was a reality at one point in time. The soldiers fought under the French army because white American troops refused to fight alongside them. They proved themselves 191 days of continuous combat, suffering 1,500 dead and wounded. They outpaced their French counterparts by 7 miles in at least one offensive and were the first French, British, or American soldiers to reach the Rhine River at the end of the war. Now, I don't know what moving forward and gaining ground in World War I was like, but just in Iraq and Afghanistan, for example, sometimes it would take a whole day to go a kilometer, or you wouldn't even make it. And they're saying they were 7 miles ahead. On their return home, the unit's 3,000 soldiers were honored by throngs of New Yorkers who turned up for a victory parade up Fifth Avenue in February 1919. Racial lines were for the time displaced, the New York Tribune wrote. The color of their skin had nothing to do with the occasion. The blood they shed in France was as red as any other. Headquartered in Manhattan neighborhood of Harlem, the regiment had earned 11 French citations and a unit, Croix de Guerre, France's highest military honor. Help me say that. France's highest military honor, which was also awarded to some 170 Hellfighters for individual acts of gallantry. That's insane. As we know, World War I was insanely bloody. Trench warfare, just horrible. Horrible. One of them was Private Henry Johnson, a 5'4" soldier weighing 130 pounds, who fought off some 20 Germans near his unit's trench line one night in May 1918. Oh my God. He was wounded 21 times, but denied a Purple Heart and disability allowance after the war. Unreal. Our nation owes a debt of gratitude to the troops who fought during a time when our country turned their backs to them for what is now the America we know today. Hailed by former President Theodore Roosevelt as one of the war's 5 bravest soldiers, he died destitute in 1929. It would take another 86 years for the U.S. to recognize his bravery with the Medal of Honor until 2015. Tragic. Absolutely tragic. I can't even believe when I read stuff like this on the show here. A few years later, while working on a display at the newly renovated Harlem Armory in 2019, the New York State Military Museum Director Courtney Burns discovered the unit's nickname had never been officially recognized. And that was such a glaring error, Burns says. He notified Colonel Seth Morgulis, the 369th Sustainment Brigade's commander, who called the omission crazy and noted that Harlem River Drive, which runs by the Armory, had been renamed Harlem Hellfighters Drive in 2003. So now the Army officially recognizes the name as the Hellfighters. And I think that's good. I think that's a step in the right direction, at least. Meanwhile, it's going to take a lot more effort to right that wrong, in my opinion. And I hope I can bring a little bit of awareness to that issue. So welcome, Robert Mingle. So Larry says, we had our own planes buzz us all the time. It was a rivalry between helos and fixed-wing pilots. Our helo pilots said fighter, bomber jocks were jealous of helos because they can't fly backwards. That's funny. Armor says, the amount of times Russia nearly spanked the flames of war is concerning. Sparked the flames of war. Spanked the flames of war is funnier. Robert says, is it pronounced bass or bass? I understand what you mean here, and I believe it is bass. And I believe I was saying bass, but now it's bass. I'm all about that bass. Minnie says the Russian thing was 1983, caught by Stanislav Petrov. Austin says, side note, PSA, upvote beards on AF Portal Ideas page. Over 300 submissions so far for beards, and the top submission is almost 500 upvotes. Let's finally make this happen. I doubt any amount of upvotes is going to make that happen, but hey, you can try your best. You guys can try with that the The beards thing. Good luck. So, okay, I gotta start cruising because we got to get to the base video. We got to be all about the base. So let's go on to the next story here. A few months ago, I covered this story. Okinawan Marine gets drunk, chokes out a taxi cab driver, steals the cab, crashes the cab, injures himself, totals the vehicle. I called him a total asshole. I said I hope he gets a pretty harsh punishment for that. That really ruins relations between American and Japanese people, and it's totally an idiotic thing to do. And if that taxi driver, who was doing him a huge favor by preventing him from getting a DUI, had invested his own money into that cab, I hope he gets the full amount of payback he deserves for that taxi cab from that Marine and gets a brand new vehicle. And you know what? A good apology. A good apology I think he deserves too. But here's what did happen. A Marine who had admitted assaulting an Okinawa taxi driver, so he admitted it, he was, guilty of it, was given a 3-year suspended sentence besides his original sentence, which I'll get to in a minute. Lance Corporal Jameson Bissett, 20, who was assigned to Camp Hansen, pled guilty last week to assault, obstruction of business, making threats, larceny, and violation of Japanese traffic laws for choking Hideki Inokawa, a 61-year-old Japanese taxi cab driver on November 7th. Bissett then stole and crashed the cab, totaling the vehicle. Naha District Court Judge Tatsudo Sakamoto sentenced Bissett to 3 years in a Japanese prison with hard labor, which would have been a really rough sentence. So that was his original sentence. 3 years in a Japanese hard labor camp. Bissett will likely serve no additional time, though, because they suspended the sentence for 4 years. It has been recognized that the defendant committed these offenses under the influence of alcohol and on the spur of the moment. He was out drinking in American Village, which I live right next to, and it's kind of a neat spot. When he decided to take a cab home because he was drunk, it says here he had 4 or 5 beers and 8 to 10 shots of tequila. 8 to 10 shots of tequila. That's pretty significant, I would say. You'd be pretty drunk after 10 shots and 5 beers. And if that's what he remembers, there was probably a few more going down too. Maybe before he even went out, he was pre-gaming. So then he decided to go ahead, and for no reason, he wanted to go back to American Village because it was only after 10 p.m. He said the party's only just begun. That's what he said in his mind. He said, the party's only just begun. I'm only just getting started. Take me back. And the taxi driver didn't take him back immediately, so he began to choke the driver, who eventually stopped the cab and ran away. It must have been a terrifying moment for him. Bissett then took the cab, crashed into the median, gave himself a head injury, and was arrested at a local hospital the next day. He had also robbed about $100 from the taxi driver. He says, I don't remember any of this. It doesn't sound like me. I thought I went in the taxi with my friends, but during the investigation, police said I was alone in the taxi. And next thing I know, I was at the hospital. And even that memory is bits and pieces. He did express remorse. I'd like to take this moment to apologize to the taxi cab driver and the company. He said in closing arguments Thursday, I'm very sorry. I will never, ever do this kind of crime again. Yeah, well, I bet you won't, because you're probably going to be kicked out of the Marine Corps and sent back to the United States. Now, I'll tell you one thing. I have a sneaking suspicion that part of what happened here is an American representative, maybe an American JAG or somebody, went up to the court and said, hey, we'll take him. We promise. He'll be taken care of. They probably said, you could put him 3 years in a Japanese prison and then we ship him back to the United States, or just let us go take care of him and make sure he gets taken care of. Give him back to his gunnery sergeant. Whatever happens, happens. Here's what I think will happen. That's probably not going to happen. Here's what I think will happen. He's probably going to get sent right to court-martial or NJP. He's going to get reduction in rank to E1. He's going to get a dishonorable or other non-honorable discharge, and his life's going to be ruined. So that's going to be probably the greatest punishment of all. He's basically a felon in Japan. He could never come back to Japan. He's probably going to get travel visas revoked, maybe lose his passport, all kinds of stuff. Never have a chance to get a security clearance again. He might not spend 3 years in prison, but his life is definitely going to be affected by this forever. And if I do get results on what happened to him, NJP or court-martial, I'll be sure to share those on the show too. I get so mad. The local people in Okinawa here are so kind. So many of them work so hard to take care of us as Americans. They bend over backwards for us. And, they deal with drunk Americans on a regular basis out there just causing a ruckus. It's true. It's really true. We're out there just acting a fool. I'm not denying it. I'm telling you it's real. And he's going to get in a lot of trouble. And he deserves it. So, Edward Carter Jr., he made a mistake. He made a mistake, but he deserves to pay the punishment for that. He could have killed this guy. It's no joke. And other people go out and do the same thing. They get drunk, act a fool. So Minnie says, Edward Carter Jr. was denied the MOH because he was black. He was awarded it posthumously by Clinton, I believe. The medal was presented to Carter's son in 93. All those stories of people who had their backs turned on by the government after the war, makes me just so sick. And that's why I want to bring attention to it on the show here, so that way we can maybe prevent it from happening again in the future. Christian says 1 tequila shot, 2 tequila shot, 3 tequila shot felony. Yep, that's how it goes. Jesus, what an embarrassment. Yep, Robert, I agree, it's an embarrassment. Isn't the legal age 21 in America? What is it in Japan? I think they start drinking in Japan at like 10 years old. People drink in Okinawa, I'll tell you that. People drink up in Okinawa. But I think you're still supposed to be 21 to drink in Okinawa. I believe, I'm pretty sure, I'll double check on that for you guys. But I'm pretty sure you're still supposed to be 21 to drink in Okinawa. Let's do one more story. I'm going to skip the Erie story. I have to skip it. We have to get to base. We have to get to base for Nikki. Max would be a good military judge. Everyone is going to be in the brig. If you leave the gates open in the dog park, you're going to the brig if I was a military judge. Yeah, I want to talk about this really quick because it's so ludicrous. Nikki, thank you for clearing that up. 20 is Japanese law. You know, I saw this article. Russia is building a futuristic combat suit it claims can stop 50 cal bullets. 50 cal bullets. You guys know how big a 50 cal bullet is? It's like the size of my ScuttleButt Show mug here, which you can get at ScuttleButtShow.com. Support the channel, buy a shirt. The Russian defense industrial base is purportedly throwing its resources into yet another next-generation super suit for Russian soldiers to rush into combat with. That was a lot of rush in that. A lot of rush there. State-owned defense giant Rostec announced on Friday that the corporation was leading the charge to develop fourth generation of its vaunted Satnik or Centurion battle armor. The current third-generation suit currently includes this is like an extraordinarily hard article to read. How many times does this line say current? How many times did the first line say rush? You guys got to give me some credit here for being able to read all these words in a row. Entirely new personal protective equipment and ammunition offering light armor defense and increasing the soldier's armament by several times. The new generation gear will consist of a fundamentally new set of technology, including the latest achievements of the Russian defense industry, including robotic equipment and integrated systems for exchanging information. Today, we have started the first stage of development, the definition of tactical and technical requirements. Now, here's the thing. If you got hit by a 50 cal, you're going to die anyway, because even if it doesn't penetrate, it's going to melt your insides. It's going to explode your heart, okay? You can't take that you can't survive that kind of impact. It doesn't matter if it goes through or not. It means nothing. I mean, if it goes through, you explode into a pink mist. If it doesn't go through, you're going to die because your organs are going to explode inside of your body and you're going to internally bleed to death. Your bones are going to be dust. You can't survive an impact of a 50 cal. You couldn't survive if a 50 cal hits you in the leg, you're dead. You're not surviving a 50 cal hit. Doesn't matter what kind of suit you're wearing. If anything, this is just so that they can tell their troops that they're unstoppable. Go ahead, guys. Charge those crew serve weapons. You can take it, but you cannot take it. You cannot get hit by a 50 cal. You're going down. What do the comments say? What do you guys say in the comments here? Scotty says it may stop at 50, but it's still going to hurt like a mother. Jacob says even if it doesn't penetrate the suit, that's a whole lot of energy transferred. Yeah, you're dead. If you get hit by a 50, you're dead. Nikki says, dropped a like just because I'm proud of Max for being able to read. Thank you, Nikki. Your body would still be crushed by the impact, Robert says. Justice says, I was just going to say that, Scotty. All they have to do is aim for the face, Minnie says. You could hit somebody anywhere with 50 cal. Physics be damned, Russian stellinium will stop anything, Armor says. Yeah, you know what? Here's the deal. You can't get hit by a 50 cal, you guys. I'm not even going to waste your time with the rest of this article because you cannot take a 50 cal bullet. Something here says, indeed, the feasibility. Oh, no, I didn't mean to do that. Indeed, the feasibility of the Satnik is directly related to the success of the Rotnik, according to Bendit. So far, the integrated systems for exchanging information element is also not new and will probably build on existing tactical systems currently in service. So this suit is more than just able to stop 50 cals. They're trying to make it so it'll be good for communications and able to do other stuff too. It's good at other stuff too, I guess. And it's definitely, if the government ever looks at you and says, here, put this on, it'll stop a 50 cal bullet, you're probably looking to have a bad day. You're probably about to have a bad day. Scad says, if the U.S. was invaded, the invader would have to go towards the most powerful military in the world. They would also have to go against the U.S. military. I like that. I see what you did there. Stellinium got me to laugh too. I have seen a 50 pass between two people standing close and it's still messing both up. Yeah, just a shock wave that it rips through would mess you up and burn your skin off. Here's the C, guys. You can't get hit by a 50 cal. I feel like I've heard that in a brief before. Yep. So you definitely don't want to get hit by a 50 cal. You're pretty screwed if you do. So let's get into what we came here to talk about. Max, but think about us testing bulletproof vests. Someone has to test it. Well, you know, obviously they don't just put that directly onto somebody. First things first. Nikki, you know that. You know that, bud. I wouldn't want to get shot by anything at any point in time, but at least we know that an average vest can stop maybe a 7.62. But you're still going to break all your ribs and cause some internal bleeding. It is not good. You don't want to take a direct hit. Maybe off a wall. Maybe if it bounced off a wall, maybe that's it. Maybe if you're taking shrapnel from a 50 cal, it'll stop that. But that's it. Hey, look, we got to get to what we came here to talk about today, you guys. Austin says, I hope that the active ballistic armor like tank should only weigh 200 pounds. Say it magically stops one. How would it do against the second hit? You know, interestingly, Minnie, I'll just comment on this real quick, and we got to get on to what's going on with the Air Force over here. If you even like drop your helmet, it might not stop the bullet next time. It's all built around the integrity of when it's in perfect condition. If your vest is damaged, if your Kevlar is damaged, it's not going to be as effective. It has to be in perfect condition. So, look, I don't want to make this an I told you so thing, but Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force Base has been jumping down the chain of command like she's sliding down a ladder well on a ship, okay? She has been riding right to the Facebook pages of lone airmen who've just been trying to have a good time, and she's been trolling them like a mother, okay? She has definitely broken the mold as far as I'm concerned on what's appropriate for a senior enlisted leader, especially at that level, at that like Washington, D.C. level, to go invade your feed, to go comment on your post. You are not safe in the Air Force now on social media. But she maybe stepped in it this time. So if you guys want a great video on what initially happened, I recommend you go over to Nikki MGTV's website and watch the video he posted today. He got to it way before I did. And the Air Force has done a great job scrubbing the internet of the original post and its facts and all of the comments on it on her Facebook feed. It's since been deleted and scrubbed, and it's hard to find. But if you go to Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force Joanne Base's official Facebook page, government official Facebook page, right at the top, it's got her required reading list, which does include kill chain. And then it's got the top one, which she went live this morning in a ridiculously poor quality video to have her coffee talk with the CMSAF. This video was very low quality. Here's what happened. There's an airman out there who started a single mother program at the bowling alley, and she wrote this article about how hard she works as a single parent, how she got abandoned by the father, and she had to do it all on her own while balancing being an airman. And she wrote this article called The Many Hats I Wear. And it goes, I had to be an airman, I had to be a mother, I had to be single, I had to do all these things. And the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force goes ahead and shares this article and says, good for her, and slams the dad. And slams the dad. And that's all the information that she had. Basically putting out to the world on a page that has hundreds of thousands of views. 173,000 people follow this. 160,000 people like it, including 4 of my friends like this page, because I'm looking at the Facebook page right now. And then the internet responds. If you guys follow my Instagram, go over to my Instagram at the ScuttleButt Show and look at my story. I just dropped like 50 memes about this. Reddit went bonkers. Reddit went insane with memes of the CMSAF about how she's basically thrown a bunch of her airmen under the bus. Not only that, but this airman was a PJ, okay? This airman was a hero, a rescue man of the PJs who've done thousands of rescues in the past 10 years of people, civilians and military alike. When the SEALs need saving, the PJs go in, okay? They go in, they rescue people. They've rescued so many people, conducted so many operations, it's outrageous. We have the 33rd out here in Okinawa, Japan, rescuing people, SAR, CSAR, all day long. So the father, it turns out, is a great guy. A bunch of people in his chain of command come to his rescue. And people hit her up on the comments like, hey, it looks like somebody didn't do their homework. Somebody didn't take the time to go fact check their information that they're putting out. Not only that, but it turns out that the mom has a horrible reputation from senior leadership representing the interests of the father. The mother, and this is just as it's been stated from testimonials online, that's where this information is coming from, that the mother was out there having a bunch of affairs, running around while he was deployed. Someone described her as the most manipulative airman they've ever met. She had been arrested, and she goes out and starts this program. She gets this huge shout out from the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, and maybe this is the time that she stepped over the line and just reshared a post, called down airmen a little bit too soon. We covered this a few times on the show earlier, where she goes out and she calls out people for trolling her on Facebook. Anybody who's got a problem with her on Facebook, she's coming after you. Maybe she's on Facebook too much. I don't know. But then she does this coffee talk video to make it all okay, to do this big apology, right? Apology tour 2021. And I have some issues with this video. So we're going to do a reaction to this video where the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force explains or tries to explain what it is that she was doing when she reposted this article and why I think that it's super bogus. Here we go.
I want to talk about the elephant in the room right now, which is what probably half the people who are having coffee time, who don't normally attend coffee time, are probably here for. And really, it comes down to a post that was shared on my official page.
Can we just really quick talk about the quality of this video? I'm live right now. She's live in this video. She's live. I'm live. She's live. I'm live. Is there a difference in quality, do you think? I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy dressed up as a guy, pretend to be another guy here on YouTube, okay? And this is the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. This video is getting 100,000 views. She's trying to make sense of what she did. People are upset with her, and she can't even get some decent audio going. This is like a really, really bad quality iPhone video, frankly. I suspect they didn't even have Wi-Fi where they were at. They're going off that 3G. This video was filmed with 3G.
On Friday evening. And so, Diamond One, you know more than anybody that we get a lot of emails, right? And a lot of emails trying to highlight airmen in a great way.
Right.
So this was no different. We got an email a few weeks ago about a senior airman at Luke Air Force Base who is doing great things and started a single parent support group, if you will,
Yeah.
or is trying to get attention and resources to be able to do that. And it was a good news story. So as soon as I heard it and somebody sent it my way, of course I said, hey, send me a picture of this airman. I'd love to be able to highlight the good work that they're doing on behalf of single parents, because I'll be honest, whether you're a female, male, single parent, doesn't matter. It can be a challenging life. And I shouldn't even say single parent because, you know, I spent most of my career dual military, like you. Right. My husband did 5 one-year deployments, you know, downrange, and also a tour in Korea where although I wasn't a single parent, I certainly had the challenges that some of them do. And so,
yeah.
So here's what she's doing here. You guys tell me if you agree. I see Scad says, who would win in quality, a guy streaming from his house or the entire Air Force, right? Justin says, listen to that language already. A post that was shared on my page, not the simple phrase, I posted. Yep, correct. Austin says, I'm getting reception in a cinder block building. Everything looks potato quality right now. Well, trust me, this video is high quality, coming at you in high resolution. Robert says, I've seen Bigfoot footage with better video quality. That's exactly right. I've seen Bigfoot footage in higher quality too. Love that, those Bigfoot TV shows. Now, what she's doing here is she's excuse making, right? She's saying, she's starting with all the reasons to sympathize with her and that this isn't actually her fault. She was trying to do something good instead of a simple, we didn't do our homework. Now, why is this important to me? Why do I feel like we even need to talk about this? Well, what it comes down to is that there's an airman out there, a PJ, who is totally, his reputation's totally on the rocks right now because this article was just shared to hundreds of thousands of people calling him out basically by name, because if you know who the wife is, you know who the baby daddy is, calling him out for being a horrible father, abandoning the kid, not taking care of him, abusing the family, all this stuff. And she just went ahead and shared that on her page. That's why this is important to me, because this is that fake news. This is that fake news of a guy trying to be a good dad. No one asked for this. The girl who, I don't even blame the girl who wrote the article, frankly. She was interviewed in her local Air Force, editorial or whatever. She didn't ask the CMSAF to repost this. She just took it upon herself. So that's why I think this is such a big deal to me.
The post was always about highlighting this. What came back with the pictures was also an article that this person, a commentary that they wrote in their base paper.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I read that commentary briefly, probably too brief, and that's on me. But I read that commentary that was entitled "The Hats I Wear,"
Yeah.
And it resonated with me. Because and probably to many of our audience members, because reality is we all wear a lot of hats in our lives, and it's just a matter of fact. And so when I read that, I read and I could relate to all these different hats this young airman is wearing. My blind spot is because as a mother and as a wife.
By the way, Sorry if you can hear some noise in the background or some work going on. By the way, the blind spot memes are blowing up right now. Like these blind spots that she claims she has. It was just, and she's going to go into it a little bit here to try to clean up the story. The blind spot memes are out of control. The memes are, if you go over to my Instagram, check out my story and look at the 20 memes I posted of this. After you listen to this show, after you see this story here, you'll kind of see why it's so funny. But it is just classic meme warfare going on. And the Redditors, the airmen out there are winning, by the way.
I understood that piece. You know, I glossed over my blind spot where she made 2 suggestions about her then husband at the time, who you know, she.
Another thing, when people start clapping to make a point, they have no point. Okay, I've seen this on the internet. I've seen this tactic. If you have to clap in beat with your words, you're probably not saying anything that good. It's just like trying to emphasize something that doesn't make sense. I don't like this clapping while I'm talking. If you guys feel me, if you guys know what I'm talking about, hit me up in the comments and then become a patron.
She made some, you know, comments about her now ex, right, and said, now I'm wearing the single parent hat. And it didn't put him in a good light. But I'll be honest, that was my blind spot. And I own that because I didn't see that commentary for how it could be taken from a.
All right, hold on. The look on her face right here is, let me find the spot. The look on her face right here. Let me find the spot. Freeze frame. That is the look of what is my name? Who am I? What am I saying right now? What are the words coming out of my mouth? Is this making any sense? Someone with the earpiece in my ear tell me if anything I'm saying is making any sense. And the dude over here, they're calling one diamond, which must be an Air Force term. If you guys know what that means, hit me up in the chat and let me know what it is. One diamond, or diamond one over here, is like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what she's saying. She's clapping, and that sounds good. So I'm going to just agree and help her get through this one.
Context of the article, and I was like, man,
thank you guys in the chat. Epic chat.
So here's a story of this person's story and how they recovered and et cetera. So we posted that article along with the post about the single parent piece, which was always the highlight. Once we found out within about 2 hours, you know, it resonated well with a lot of people, but then we started to see the comments where, hey, that's not very fair to the father. And we acknowledge that, and we're like, take it off, take the article piece off, but let's keep the post up about this airman because she's done great work and she has, you know, she is on her way to
keep the article up. They want to keep it up, even when they know something's not right. They get this vibe that something's not right, but they want to keep the article up because they're like, hey, we still got to give her a shout out for this article she wrote. She's a single mom. That's all I need to know. She said she's a single mom. That's all I need to know. We got to keep her up there. We got to give her a shout out. Who cares? Who cares what is really going on with this? Who cares who's affected by it? You know, it doesn't matter. People are starting to talk in the comments. They don't know what they're talking about. These airmen don't know what they're talking about. We got to just keep this article up.
Doing great things for our United States Air Force and certainly for Team Luke. So when the article came off 2 hours later, you know, Team 19 went to bed. Like, we thought it was a good deal. And Team 19 also made the decision that because that article went out, that we were going to reach out and talk to both members, right? The senior airman and the staff sergeant involved on Saturday, only to wake up to see what social media does, which is expand like wildfire and oftentimes not in a positive.
Why is it windy in there? I can't get over the poor quality of this video. Why is it windy in there? Why do I hear wind? I mean, I can see you inside. I can see the airman over there who's filming them. I can see her in the fireplace reflection. Why is it windy? I just don't understand, you guys. I don't understand what's going on here. Now she's going to go into this. First of all, I love your comments, Robert. My many hats cover my blind spot. Point. Hey, you know what? She's right. You're right. I'm wrong. I should abandon this video here right now because I didn't think about it that way. Now, this is the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, okay? This is the highest enlisted leader in the Air Force who's about to go on a tirade about how social media is the real enemy here. Not posting crazy stuff to your own Facebook page. It's the negativity of social media. It's the trolls.
And so it was unfortunate. Saturday morning, I spent time, called both of them.
You guys are epic in the chat.
One, make sure that they're okay. That's the number one priority. Also share, I was pretty apologetic for the way things had turned out because that was never the intent. The intent was always to highlight the good that somebody is doing. So very unfortunate how it turned out. But I'll tell you, we all own some of this. I certainly own it. It is my official Facebook page, and what we put out there can never, disparage any of our airmen or have them, in that light.
Except it's like the third or fourth time that she's done this, okay? I maybe wouldn't even be doing this video right now if it wasn't the third or fourth time that this has happened. But why is the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force having this much Facebook drama? I mean, I don't know. I don't have this much Facebook drama. Now, I am looking for somebody to start a YouTube beef with me. If you're a YouTuber and you want to beef with me, I want somebody to have a YouTube beef with me so bad. I just want to have like one little YouTube beef. Maybe it'll be Nikki. I don't know. But one person who's got more than enough of this right now is Chief Master Sergeant Base. Let's see what's going on here.
Totally own that. That was my mistake. What happened as a result was the dirt started slinging, and then people started finding dirt on the members in our air.
Finding dirt? When she says finding dirt, she literally means finding out the truth. Like in this instance, she is saying people start slinging dirt, which is just telling her the other side of the story. There's every story, 3 sides, right? I'm sure we've all heard this. Side A, side B, and the truth, right? So she posted side A, somebody else posts side B, and now she's saying that they start slinging dirt. Start slinging dirt.
And it was just a whole unfortunate slew of events that, that ultimately last night led us to take it down. And we took the post down last night because it started to become
the other guy's face.
It was almost on the verge of people providing threats, and we can't do that.
So before, and I like that. So, and I said, you said you own it, well, we own it, right? So we own it as Team 19, and there were definitely. So the thing I like about this is iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
And you mentioned blind spots, and what I do like, even though the mudslinging happened, there were also some people out there with good intent to let us know that, hey, here's a blind spot that you have.
Yeah.
Man, that's called having our six. That's called having our back, and that's what we're supposed to do for each other as wingmen. So I definitely appreciate that did happen. But to your point, there's a way to do that, and the mud and as you go down that slippery slope of correction, then the mudslinging starts.
Yeah.
And then the other piece of it.
You know what scares me here? He said the slippery slope of correction. He just said, Diamond One here, just said the slippery slope of correction. What is the implication there? That you shouldn't make a correction if you're wrong? Now, we all kind of know this is true. We all kind of know that, senior leadership doesn't like to admit when they're wrong. But what he's saying here, he just said it out loud, the slippery slope of correction. Wow.
It's because quickly become divisive, and the whole initial theme of the story of an airman who did some good gets lost.
It completely got lost.
Right.
And I will be honest, so airing details about somebody's past, highly inappropriate.
What are you? I can't even. I literally cannot even. I don't even say I literally cannot even. But I literally have to say I literally cannot even, to the point where she says airing the details of someone's past is inappropriate in response to her sitting here apologizing for airing the details of somebody's past. I literally can't even right now.
Bullying online, highly inappropriate. Harassing people.
The biggest bully, the biggest cyber bully in the Air Force is the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force.
Highly inappropriate. So we got to get to a place. This is why I always talk about culture. And this is why, when you look at my focus areas, myself, General Brown, we talk about culture and the environment that we have to have. We have to be better than that. And so I wanted to just share that piece, and all of us, I think, own this and have to take a look in the mirror on kind of our responsibilities on social media writ large, not for this incident, but what's our responsibilities and how do we conduct ourselves. But
you guys, what is this real life? she just said, we all have to, she literally said, not this incident, but we literally have to look at all of our responsibilities. And so, I mean, I'm not talking about this. This is nothing. But all of us have to look at our responsibilities in general. And I don't even know what to say. It's kind of a lost cause.
How do we move on?
Right. And you know what we had to do this weekend. So whenever there's any gray area or blind spots, and I know what Aaron Perry would have did and what Aaron Bass would have done. Yeah. But what we did, being in for a while and realized, hey, that's a blind spot, we went back to the source of our code, which was 1-1. Yeah. So I had to reread that as a first sergeant. So I went back and said, let me make sure that we're not doing anything that we're missing the mark on here. Because, as you said, CMSAF, we own some of the things that happen out there. But then, now it turns to, are there things that others, meaning myself, meaning the folks who posted some other things, dug up history, that probably wasn't appropriate, or there's some things that they should own. Yeah. And I would just challenge everybody to go back, reread 1-1, because it does give us the foundation for how we should be treating each other, period.
I love that you said that, but
there's been in the last 2 minutes of this video, there's been a shift in blame to the audience. Is everyone else seeing this? It's been pretty slick. It's been a little slick, but it hasn't gone over my head that in the last 2 minutes of this video, they've shifted blame to the audience, to the Air Force, to the airmen of the Air Force out there. They're now just saying what's wrong with the fleet. They're not even talking about the video anymore.
Sam.
Or the post.
Airman Bass would not have read 1-1. So that's what we do when we're a little bit more experienced with it. And I guess we don't. I'm not old yet, but no, I agree. I reread it a couple weeks ago when I posted 1-1 because there's some good foundational stuff. But bottom line is, we all airmen own that culture piece on how do we create an environment where every airman can thrive. And where every airman feels valued. And
the problem here is that you just crushed an airman's whole life by posting to your gigantic Facebook page as the senior enlisted official member of the Air Force that this dude's a deadbeat dad, that this PJ is a deadbeat dad. It's so, you guys in the chat are my heroes right now, by the way. You have me cracking up. Nikki says, dang, Max is the biggest bully. Scotty says, and this is a great one. Okay, I don't say this often, but where the hell are the officers? Seriously. Who has the oversight on this? Who is the one that, who is the officer directly in charge of the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force? It can't be the Chief of Air Force Operations. There's got to be somebody else that she talks to. There's got to be somebody else. The officers are staying out of it in hopes that nobody finds their pictures from college. Maybe. Why take the blame when you can just divert it? Exactly. Diamond 1 is one of the 13 E9 first sergeants in the Air Force, and I believe the career field manager that oversees all three components, Chief Master Sergeant. Thank you very much for that, Austin. I really appreciate it. Robert says she's apologizing for our mistakes. What a great leader. Yeah, she said, basically the problem is we didn't read 1-1 when she posted it on her Facebook page. We should have been paying better attention to her Facebook, or else we would have known how to act when she throws an airman under the bus. Let me just, before I even start the video again, as a Chief Select, I'm particularly hurt by this because my job would have almost been to take care of people, okay? As a Chief Select, watching her as the E9 throw her airmen under the bus, throw the whole fleet of airmen in the whole Air Force under the bus for her mistake, that cuts deep. That cuts real deep. To the selects out there, this one's for you.
We create the foundational culture that we want. And I want to talk about this, and I'm hoping you guys have some questions or want to have dialogue on this because we don't want to shy away from these things. But the culture piece is foundational to, the suicides in the Air Force, to the sexual assaults, to the harassment, to the bullying, to the respect piece. And I don't want to focus on the negatives. I really want to focus on how do we get it right.
I bet you don't want to focus on the negatives, Master Sergeant, Chief Master Sergeant Base, because they're all at you right now.
How do we work way left of that where our airmen are resilient enough to continue going on and and they're able to have that culture and environment again where they're thriving.
Well, that's where the peer check comes in.
Yeah.
She's like, if you guys start behaving, I will let you thrive again. I will give you a safe environment. If you guys leave me alone on Facebook, I will create that safe environment again for you. But your success is up to you. There's nothing I can do. You have to stop trolling me on the internet, and then I'll let you go back to work, being good airmen.
Like we said about that too, because our culture, that 1-1 and all those other doctrinal type stuff out there, it kind of tells us what we should be aspiring to be.
Yeah.
And just like what you did, if you identify a blind spot, we identify a blind spot, and we say, okay, God, we acknowledge it, but then we work towards how we can be better at that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a challenge for all airmen and hopefully our guardians as well, to take a look at what can you do to be better the next day, and then whatever action you take, and better.
Did he just shout out the Guardians? I think this is the first time that I've seen the Guardians get casually shouted out in conversation in some kind of official capacity. Did you guys hear that? Let me rewind this just for a quick second here.
And they're able to have that culture and environment again where they're thriving.
Well, that's where the peer check comes in. I think.
Yeah.
And like we said about that too, because our culture, that 1-1 and all those other doctrinal type stuff out there, it kind of tells us what we should be aspiring to be.
Yeah.
And just like what you did, if you identify a blind spot, we identify a blind spot, and we say, okay, God, we acknowledge it, but then we work towards how we can be better at that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a challenge for all airmen and hopefully our guardians as well.
He did.
Take a look at what can you do.
Shout it
to
out
be
for the
better
Guardians.
next day. And then whatever action you take, and whether it was this post or whatever else was out there, was there something you could have done differently? And if you could have, then how do you go about making some type of amends for that to be better the next day?
Yeah.
So.
Hey.
That's a great point, Casey. He's like, man, I miss the good old days when I was just a specialist 1, 2, 3, and 4. It is funny. We just covered that story about the Air Force Academy cheating yesterday, and now we've got to deal with this. Regal put it great, disgusting, corporate doublespeak. It's truly sickening. I can't overstate it. The shift in blame from the beginning of this video till now of it being, they're just bashing the fleet. They're just literally bashing the fleet at this point. They're not even talking about the incident for the last 6 or 7 minutes. I hope you guys are having a good time watching me freak out. The last time I was this bothered by a story that we've covered on the show was the colonel who got caught stealing from the exchange in Korea, who got no punishment at court-martial. That was the last time I felt this disappointed in military leadership.
There was something that I could have done differently, and for certain acknowledge that. Before we move on, and oh, by the way, we have our great teammate, part of Team 19, Master Sergeant Julia Barron, who is going to be the voice who will be asking your questions. I just want to close it out with one more thing. A lot of y'all have heard me talk about where we are in the digital era and so forth. What I would ask every airman, every single one of us, if you haven't watched the Netflix show Social Dilemma, I think it'd be a great watch, and I'm asking you to watch it. It's 90 minutes. Like homework, 90 minutes of Netflix. But it helped me understand where we are, and I watched it, a few months back, and it was so good that because I have kiddos, I want to make sure my family watched it too.
Look, first of all, Justin, I know what you're trying to say in the chat. Autocorrect gets me all the time. Scotty, I would pay good money to see your locked in room with Jocko. That would be interesting. Why is this now so far off from just saying something like, I messed up again, and I'll strive to set a better example? Listen, I wanted to, it's important that we got to the end of the video here because I've got a point that I wanted to make too, which is I'm pretty sure she just advocated for Netflix, a private company. Maybe if there's somebody in the chat who's an expert at like kind of acquisitions and legal stuff like that, you could give me an idea if telling people to go get Netflix and watch a video in an official capacity is kind of like a weird thing to do in her position. But if anybody should watch it, it's her. She's the one who's overstepped on so many occasions on Facebook, specifically the social network where she's gotten herself in some trouble. She doesn't stop. She doesn't stop, and she's totally deflected. Minnie's comment about using her to dodge bullets is the greatest comment that I've ever seen. I love the clapping hands in the chat. You guys are the best. Loving this right now.
So we need to understand the information era that we are in right now. And that gets back to who we are as airmen, who we are as service members, as veterans, and as Americans. So we're either together or we're going to allow this information domain to cause strife and confusion and division amongst us. And I don't think that's what any American wants. So, yeah. All right, with that.
Damn, she finished it off with Americans. That's not what us as Americans want. Us as Americans don't want probably her as the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. I'll say that. Nikki MGT even wants us to go watch porn, I feel like. He's telling us to go watch streaking services. Scotty, thanks for clearing that up. I was trying to keep you kind of clandestine in the chat. So, Space Force will LARP Star Wars. Is that the plan? That'd be pretty cool, actually. I can't, thank you for watching that video with me. That's the end of it there. That's her non-apology. That's her non-apology to the fleet of airmen, to the force of guardians and airmen out there for what she did. I feel bad for the father in all this, okay? So Chief Master Sergeant Joanne Bass of the Air Force has only been in there since August of 2020. And in then she's had multiple incidences that we've covered on this show as to her kind of overstepping boundaries on social media. I really want to be able to cover stories of her, of her massive successes and all these people that she's helped, but she hasn't set me up for that. You gotta give me a softball here for you, Chief Master Sergeant Bass. If you want to get turned around on the ScuttleButt Show, if you want the reputation to start looking good, you got to give me a softball, because so far it has not been good, stories you've had to cover out here, okay? It's been a wild ride, and that video was kind of insane. Thank you for watching that with me, you guys. We're over the hour, but I feel like we're having a good time. The chat today was hysterical. You guys had me cracking up. I could barely focus on the video there. Let me know in the comments what you actually think about this. What should happen? What should happen with the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force? Who is the oversight on this? Who signed off on that discussion? And how many times did they say blind spot? And what does that even mean? Blind spot's one of those things, it kind of means nothing, but if they say it enough, it'll give some people something to repeat. It's a buzzword. Blind spot, blind spot, blind spot. It's a little buzzword that people can now use. And people who are going to be in defense for will say, well, it was in her blind spot. And nobody even knows what that means. They didn't take the time to explain it in the beginning of the video. So what's going to happen? What's the deal? It's going to take some serious PR resuscitation to bring this one back. That poor guy. Okay, well, let's assume, and I want to be careful here too, because I don't know the people involved. But as the facts start to come out, as the chain of command starts to come out in defense of the father and what they're saying about the mother, and they're saying go talk to the chaplain's office where she worked and all this stuff about how her disciplinary issues and her habit of kind of doing this kind of stuff. She has basically a track record of this kind of stuff. It seems like they really got this one wrong, and they're refusing. Not only did they refuse to apologize or really take any responsibility for it, because they shuffled around the responsibility so many times, who knows what ball that cup is under? Who knows what cup that ball is under? What am I saying? It's totally skewed. They shifted the whole thing to blaming the Air Force. They blamed the airmen for not being familiar enough with the 1-1, which I'm assuming is like their manual for personnel or something like that, like standards of Air Force SOP manual, whatever it is. She needs to go take her OPSEC and, do that whole Who Wants to Be an OPSEC Millionaire course again, because she really dropped the ball on this one big time. I'm sure we'll have another story like this sometime soon. Let me catch up on the chat here real quick. So it was in my blind spot. I'll circle back. That being said, yeah, you guys are right. Blind spots are no excuse. Jacob says you still have to check your mirrors not to get the ticket. Great analogy, since it's still her fault. Just to piggyback on what Scotty said, yeah, this was one of the worst examples of kind of bogus military, leadership double talk and giving the runaround to people and the old, the wind up over here while I hit you with the jab. It was just out of control, okay? So that really upset me. I'm glad you guys watched that video with me. This whole drama with the Master Sergeant of the Air Force is out of control. I don't even know what to say about it anymore. I'm going to start wrapping the show up here because we went a little overtime today. Not that we haven't necessarily time, but I try to keep it to an hour. Austin says, I hope the father responded by putting out personal dirt on blast. Time to watch the house burn. Hey, it's I bet this whole thing is unwanted attention by that family. At least I'm assuming nobody wanted it to get this bad. Nothing good can come out of having your name in the news this much, especially if you're in the military. You want to keep that kind of gray man. You want to be that gray man as much as you can. You don't want to be making waves out there on national news. You don't want to end up on the ScuttleButt Show, you guys, not for something bad. You don't want to end up on the ScuttleButt Show for something bad. You want to be on the ScuttleButt Show for something good. You know what I'm saying? The new online SEER course was in full swing, shrinking her role, evading blame, escaping the focus of the masses and redirecting the topic to the fleet. That's true. Look, guys, I'm going to start closing it out. I appreciate all the chat. I really do. The chat was on fire today, you guys. So thank you for tuning into this episode of the ScuttleButt Show. I'm going to carefully say this because I've been burned so many times. I think we're going to have an in-studio guest tomorrow. I think that we're going to have an in-studio guest tomorrow, and it's going to be really fun, including a brand new segment that we've never done before on the show. It's going to be a blast. I look forward to you guys tuning in 1800 Pacific Standard Time, as always, here on YouTube. If something was to change with that, stay tuned. Join us on Discord. Follow me on Instagram and go check out my story. We can see all. Now that you know the story of Chief Master Sergeant Bass, go check out my Instagram and check out all the memes that kind of light this whole story on fire here, and kind of just watch it all burn, which are pretty funny. She obviously has her feelings hurt by the Redditors and Instagrammers out there that made these memes, but there is no mercy right now. There is no mercy being shown. It's like the whole Air Force just went to Cobra Kai, and they learned, strike first, strike hard, no mercy when it comes to the meme warfare going on. But hey, I honestly think she did it to herself on this case. I'm not feeling that sympathetic, to be totally honest with you guys. I don't know if you can tell from my tone in this video. Anyway, with that being said, links in the description down below to where you can donate, buy merch, become a patron. Main thing you can do right now is share this channel. We're trying to get to that 1,000 subs as soon as possible. I'm hoping to come soon. I'm looking forward to talking to you guys all really soon. Austin, Minnie, Scotty, Justin, Larry, Armor, Regal, Casey, everybody in the chat. I appreciate you guys being here today. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow at the regular Scuttlebutt place, the regular Scuttlebutt time. Until then, I am out for now.